This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. The two top guys of the whole company in 2020 are facing off next here in Hell in a Cell. It's the Big Dog versus Bray Wyatt. This is sort of the pre-Fiend edition. And here's sort of the backstory of how we got here. At Battleground, Bray Wyatt defeated Roman Reigns with a little bit of help from Luke Harper. At SummerSlam, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose would defeat Wyatt and Harper. At Night of Champions, Wyatt, Harper, and Strowman would beat Reigns, Ambrose, and Jericho. On the September 21st episode of Raw, Randy Orton would help Roman Reigns and Ambrose, easy for me to say, fend off an attack from Wyatt, Harper, and Strowman. And subsequently, Reigns would challenge Wyatt to a Hell in a Cell match, and Wyatt accepts. So here we are. They get 23 minutes in a Hell in a Cell. Meltzer would say that they work this at a 70 style pace, which is very slow, but they're doing this to try to make everything mean something. What a nice idea. Meltzer would say the moves were all modern, but it was just slow by modern standards. We've got some kendo sticks being used here, and the crowd is really into that. They're really trying to build the sympathy. I thought the match was pretty good. Meltzer thought the crowd didn't get into it until late in the match. 3.25 stars. What'd you think? I mean, the kendo sticks, the Sister Abigails, and eventually we see Wyatt get thrown into an exposed stick in the corner, with the idea being that it hit him in the eye, and that allows Roman to hit the spear and the pin. I like these guys work here. It is a little weird to see a Hell in a Cell, the third match on the show, but other than that, I thought it was fun. What did you think?
Well, as you know, I'm not a fan of having more than one Hell in the Cells, because, you know, they should be for secluded for the hottest angle, the most vicious type match that there is. All the violence should be as top shelf as allowed, and within reason, so you don't get a couple of guys crippled, but it should be at a different level. But this is one of those times where both matches kind of had earned it.
Right.
And so it felt good to me that you had to, and they were going to be stylistically totally different anyway. And the one thing they did is, you know, some people may think it was a slow pace, but you look at guys their size and strength and athleticism, you hit each other in the teeth with a kendo stick, or hit somebody in the back with a chair a dozen times. Those are still chairs. You're not going to be up moving too quickly as that progression develops. You know, you should be getting weaker instead of stronger. And they made it a Hell in the Cell, top end, top shelf violence match. And they took their time and they sold everything. And when it was said and done, Roman had earned, you know, a victory. He got his ass handed to him for 20 minutes beforehand. And I saw the Wyatts and the Shield, you know, and different combinations with another guy in the match like Jericho or Randy, or all different combinations. And it was just really good and really creative, and they just meshed. And, you know, Bray and Roman on this night, they brought it, and I think everybody felt it and everybody enjoyed it.
I really dug it. I thought the work was good, but it does feel like a lot of fans were disappointed here. I think they were ready for Bray Wyatt to get the monster push. They wanted him to go over and become, you know, sort of the tippy top guy. And we know that would happen years later. Do you think they made Bray wait too long, or could this have been the right time to go with him?
Well, being a guy that, you know, I'm opinionated, but I have personal likes and dislikes, just like we all do. I always thought that Bray Wyatt, who had the most creative of characters.
Yep.
That he came up with it. It was a part of him deep down that lived in him. That's the reason he was able to pull it off. So it wasn't him playing a character, it was just a sliver of the real him amped up. And that's always the characters that get over. I felt like he had a firm grip on it. He was a big physical guy on top of that. But you got to win the big ones, Conrad. You have to win the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
And he went on a string of just, whoever's bright idea thought it was, well, this guy's, that character's over and he's doing a great job and he's a heel and you can beat him every pay-per-view. No, you can't. You should have been shoving him every pay-per-view and have that guy waiting at the end of the rainbow, if it was going to be a Roman Reigns, to pay it off with. But you got to go back and look at those records. And it was like, I know that he went like 0-6 or 0-8 at some point, something ridiculous. But you got to win. You got to win the big one.
It feels like, sometimes on Something to Wrestle, we would have conversations about guys like The Undertaker or guys like Jake Roberts, who had these really incredible gimmicks, for lack of a better word. And he would always say something like, oh, they didn't need a belt, because their character was going to be sort of bulletproof regardless of wins and losses. And that does say a lot about your character development and how good you are at doing that connecting with the audience and creating a character that resonates with them. But at the same time, it can almost be a curse, because it feels like that's the same type of brush that Bray was painted with, where they got a lot of losses on him, to your point. I mean, I remember that 0-8 stretch where you just know, oh, Bray's on pay-per-view. Well, he's losing. But I just, who's in his ear? Who's talking to the man behind the character about, hey, this is sort of the worst backhanded compliment you could ever get, so don't take it as a negative. Does he get sort of in his own head about his positioning on the card when he loses over and over and over? Or is that just not who he is?
Well, you get to a point where you have to start thinking about it. And, and the fact that if you go back, and you can go back just about and pull every one of those matches when he started that losing streak, and get some cutaways to the audience, get some reactions from the audience during the body of the match, and then get your reaction, when the finish went down. And each time that he got beat, it was diminished and it went down, and it wasn't a big victory. When beating Bray Wyatt was not a big victory for one of our baby faces, you had to sit back in your chair and go, damn, I didn't think it's possible, but they've killed this guy off.
Right.
And you're talking about a horrible, horrible crime. A 300+ pound guy that can move like that with a gimmick like that and an entertainment, just a creepy, scary crew around him. I mean, Big Red and Harper. Come on. You're telling me with those three guys in the zip code that you couldn't figure out a way to not beat Bray that many times? I mean, you got a fail safe. You got monsters wandering around everywhere. And if that continues to be the reason that he doesn't get beat, and they leave people laying every pay-per-view for 8 weeks instead of beating Bray for 8 weeks, you might have some hot heels.
Let me ask, do you think Vince McMahon, I don't know how to phrase it. Do you think Vince McMahon gets the Bray Wyatt character, or does everybody around him have to just sell him on it? Because this doesn't feel like something that's in Vince's wheelhouse.
Oh, I have no idea. You're asking an unknown that maybe doesn't have an answer. I know the audience got it.
Yeah.
And I know every single night and every house show, whether he was in the middle of his losses or his first loss or his last loss, it didn't matter. When those lights went out on the entrance and the music started, everybody in that arena had their cell phone light on. Now, if they didn't care, and I didn't look at that as being a babyface thing, it was a crowd participation thing because they loved his entrance. You know, they loved the character, and it was like a concert deal.
Yeah.
You know, when people go to the trouble collectively, thousands of them, to have their cell phone light on, they give a shit.
Yes,
So if you're in creative, Conrad, guess what? Pay attention to that.
yeah, you should give a shit too. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.